Alrighty, peace, y'all. It is I, the Emma Energy Master Allah, and you are watching the Leopard in the Mirror, Canticle of the Mutant Guardian lecture series. The book is available on Amazon. Bam! This guy right here. Okay. And this is part 2. We are continuing the lecture from yesterday. Episode 7. Wow. We rising above equality. Hitting you with this part 2. Now, in yesterday's episode, I made an error, and I said in the live premiere of the episode that I would tell you how you're supposed to make 360. So I said that Resh was 300, it's actually 200, making that a total of 260. And so what that would be is we associated 26 with Yahweh, but then we are elevating it. So we got a cube and a circle. So it's like circumambulating the Kaaba, if you will. So that's a good way to remember that. All right. If you spin that cube fast enough, it'll start to take on the form of a sphere. All right. 3D form. Okay. So we're spinning this thing around an axis, giving it a spherical shape here. Where on your body do you have something that is spherical that rotates on an axis? Ooh, hell, I'm glad you asked. It is the skull. So if I draw some eyes on this bad boy, give him the nose, give him a jaw and some teeth. Bam, now that sphere becomes a skull. All right. And it just so happens that the 100 that we need in order to make this 360 is Kaf, which just happens to mean skull or ape. So Resh is it's either the head or the beginning or the leader. And then Samek, we pretty much associate that with support. So it's this idea of something that is supporting the skull. Now, it just so happens that a lot of the words that I was linking back to this right here happen to also mean neck. And I surmise that this is largely because the neck represents the connection between the head and the body, which is the connection between the origin, the beginning, the top, and the rest of the body. So you could think of that as a pyramid. You got your forelimbs below and you got your head above. Okay, so this would be our apex, forming a pyramid, right? All right, so as far as your body is concerned, the way this is distributed is the throat chakra, and then these become the 4 beneath that. So it'll be heart, solar plexus, sacral, and root, respectively. Throat represents ether. So we start out at, aka Akash. Heart is air, aka Vayu. Solar plexus is fire, aka Agni, or Eke in Igbo. Sacral is water, which is Apis. Then we have we got earth, which is Prithvi. Okay. All right, so everybody had the same elemental mapping down in the Congo. We got that as the 4-quadrant Dikanga, so we're seeing it from above. So the apex is the center point here, and then these would be the corners of the pyramid. So it's like seeing it from above, okay? These corners are actually aligned with the cardinal directions of the planet too. So they slick did that in front of y'all face. But it's basically to say that your body is made the same way as the pyramid. The word in Egyptian, if I were to take this Q and this S, Charis, is a sepulcher. So it's like to bury or to, I guess you could kind of look at it as like a coffin or whatever, but like a tomb or something like that or whatever, which is part of the reason why they think this thing is a tomb. But the same gematria value comes from here, and then that word actually comes from to strike or to burn up. And where did we see that again? That before? All right, so that is so we were talking about that with the etymology of black, which means to burn or to shine. All right, so if you don't know the correct order for things, this could be a grave, while this could give you information about fire, which was our solar plexus. Your solar plexus, that's at the navel. Pyramid is the navel of the world, they call it. They also call the Kaaba the navel of the world. This is why, because it's all talking about this. It's talking about that place where your 8:5 ratio, your 5 ratio of your height of your body intersects. All right. Just wanted to clean that up before we get into the rest of the chapter. All right, I know some of y'all see y'all split between this screen and YouTube, because right now the premiere of today's episode, well, if you're watching live, then this is tomorrow's episode. So hello from the future. But over there on YouTube, it's the present day episode. It's the Tuesday episode. And we are recording Wednesday episode. As always, I record these on Facebook first, and then I upload them to YouTube. If you are watching on YouTube, make sure that you subscribe, like, drop a comment if you have any questions, do all of that. We're going to get busy. I'm going to read through the chapter as usual, and then I'm going to go through it. Let's go. All right. In the serious image, having established the z-axis rotation that established depth and the y-axis rotation that established height, I reflected the previous image about the x-axis and noticed that the image was near identical, except the mouths of the elk man and vulture woman appeared to open and close. When the mouth of one was open, the mouth of the other would close. Having been an avid creator of flipbook animations as a child, I immediately recognized these as two frames of a single animated action. By using an online GIF creator, I tested my theory and found that the two images do, in fact, create a looping animation of the man and woman, quote unquote, speaking to each other, as all the figures lightly gyrate as if they were alive. It was as if the letters used to construct the Syrian image were demonstrating their purpose. Put, being more than modern-day Libya, also included Morocco in its capital, Marrakech, which likely gets their name from sons of Cush or land of gods. If we are to assume the elk man is the Cushite foundation for the other three, then this crosstalk between he and the vulture woman appears to be an acknowledgement of the star Vega in early humanity, the name of which means either falling eagle or alighting vulture in Arabic astronomy. Vega was particularly important to Hindus, Babylonians, and Chinese. Having become the center of New Age mythology involving the clash between the lion-like founder race and their reptilian rivals, The aforementioned compromise that resulted in the pyramid echoes the alignment of the North Pole with Vega during the start and end of the Quran cycle. This contrasts in alignment with Thuban during the accepted date the Great Pyramid was built. As far as the galactic lore goes, peace was established between the two races through the marriage of a Lyran prince and an Orion reptilian queen in the Sirius system, giving birth to a broad new class of hybrid races designated to be the new rulers of the galaxy, Anunnaki. While one faction returned to Vega, another settled in the Centauri system and became known as Nibiru. Vega is considered to be the embodiment of Krishna in Hindu mythology, likely influencing the association of Vega with blue or black hybrid beings. Modern mythology suggests that the famous Anunnaki of Sumerian lore are a faction from Nibiru known as the Anak Atlantean Empire, established before the Atlantis associated with Earth. As fantastic as this may sound, there are a few oddly consistent clues that suggest that at least the mythology is rooted in a shared oral tradition. For starters, the manner in which Igbo and Yoruba contract words that have the same vowel at the end of the first word and at the start of a second, as we did with Ina and Ani to derive Inani, can be applied to Nibiru to reveal the Yoruba phrases Ni Ibiru, meaning to have fear, and Ni Ibi-Iru, meaning in a bad place, or less commonly, to have a tail, or to be at the tail. While this appears to refer to an animal tail on the surface, this is a possible reference to the infinite tail that forms in power law distributions such as those in wealth inequality. According to the popular book, The Raw Material, The Law of One, the Native Americans who migrated into the Americas from Asia at the start of the current Quran cycle are descended from Mu beings from Deneb, who began incarnating on Earth around 53,000 BCE. This is the same time period associated with the emergence of lighter skin in the Levant and the migration of Aboriginal Australians through Southeast Asia and into their current location. Deneb is known as the tail of the hen due to its position in the Swan constellation Cygnus, and is said to have been a refuge for the Vega Mu civilization following war with the Chiakar. The Egyptian word Mu means water. Another curious alignment is the earlier association made between Obatala, and King Atlas. Deneb is joined by Vega and Altair to form the Summer Triangle asterism. The star at the center of this formation that would make it a tetrahedron is Albireo, considered to have been mistranslated from Arabic as beak of the hen. The earlier association made between Arabs and Yoruba is again reflected here in the phrase Alabi Ireo. Alabi is a name meaning one born to the white cloth, being a reference to sons of Obatala. Thus, Alabi Ireo is good fortune or blessings unto you, son of Obatala. But Obatala again being considered the creator of mankind. The modern lore, according to Astral Legends YouTube channel, suggests that the Elohim initially incarnated as a bird-like race in Vega called Carians. The Carians helped to cultivate the Chiakar in the Thuban system. Being of higher dimensionality, the Carians collaborated with Lyrans to cultivate an ape-like species in Vega, into whose bodies they chose to incarnate to create the first humanoids in our galaxy, from which all others descend. This echoes the Daniel 7 description of the first beast as being like a lion with eagle's wings that were plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth and made to stand upon the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given to it. A key aspect of man's downfall in the Uga Azi was the suppression of the divine feminine, strongly associated with Vega, and the vulture symbolism of Nekhbet and Mut, worshipped in Nubia, Egypt, and Libya. In the Supreme Wisdom Lessons, it describes the creation of the Bible Quran as being a process that is refreshed every 24,896 years, approximately 25,000, to match the circumference of the earth. The emphasis of both the figure and the estimate in this degree draws attention to the 104-year gap between them. Considering the connections we just made between the Yoruba Arabs and the hybrid Anaka Atlanteans, it's quite shocking to find that the 11916 CE date that gave us the word asp, adjusted by 104 years, is 11812 CE, which gives us Arab. Considering the modern suppression of women in the Arab world today, it is interesting to find that the patriarchal climate of Yoruba culture today was virtually non-existent before colonization. Perhaps this echoes stories by Matthias de Stefano of a reptilian race native to Earth that taught human women before they were supplanted by the mostly reptilian, masculine-oriented Anaka Atlanteans. Lore aside, these mythologies align extremely well with African history that has largely been omitted from the American slavery-absorbed version we learned in school. Caution should be taken to ensure this lore is not just more African erasure and simply used as a measure of the existing global archetypal or mythic space. Oh, baby. So we got a chance to talk about them aliens. Let's see what's really going on with that. All right, so first and foremost, so these are the two frames of the animation I was talking about. So over here you see mouth open, see over here mouth closed. To give you an even better view of that, I'll show you the actual GIF I made. Well, there it is. So all I'm doing is alternating between those two pictures. Clearly my ilk man, he is talking and look like he's raising the roof down here. My little vulture woman, she talking back. These guys over here, they getting down, they dancing. And all together, they form this gyrating structure. So we are now vibrating the pyramid. This is crazy. This should not exist. Like, if you've been paying attention to how I created this from a simple tetrahedron and the letter A from 3 languages. So 2 Semitic and then 1, well, Canaanite is technically considered a Semitic language too. So yeah, so 3 Semitic languages. And then I overlaid it with the letter from the Devanagari script, which itself descended from Semitic languages, Aramaic to be exact. So I brought them together, and this is what it came to. This is what it spit out. Insanity, I say, insanity. And so I spent the past couple years in the writing of this book just figuring out how in the heck could this be possible. All right, so we talked about the let's see. So yeah, I did. So thought like a flip book, alternated what you just saw. Okay, I talked a little bit about the etymology of Marrakesh and Morocco, sons of Cush. How did they get to the west? They traveled there. All right, so these eponyms, these names of people, it is common both in the Bible and in the Vedas in India for the name of a person to also be associated with a particular land. Is the land named after the person, or is the person a personification of the land? Well, if you look at things like principalities and how that is really just like a nation, you know, but Later on in Gnosticism and stuff like that, they personify these nations. You're talking about a national god, a tutelary spirit. It's a group spirit of a people, a tribal spirit of a people, the collective archetype of a particular people. And so I think this is a good place to talk about what is really happening with all of this stuff. All right, so there is a realm, and I've talked about this a little bit, but this is so in Sufism, which is the mystical side of Islam, they talk about Alam al-Mital, which is you can call it the imaginal realm, not an imaginary, not a fake realm, but it is the intermediary realm between, they call it a spiritual, but I would prefer to call it the informational realm. That's a good way to put it. Because I could say quantum, but that's so jargony nowadays that you might not really get the gist of it. You got an informational realm. You've got this guy right here. And then you've got our physical realm. All right, so the intermediary space between there is a area that our mind and the subtle energy body accesses on a regular basis. It is the in-between point between objective information, so it is real information from the physical space, but you interact with it in like a virtual type of way. You can think of it kind of like the Matrix, except you're not jacking into a computer that, some machines out here made. Not literally. Well, you'll see why I said well in a minute, because it's not that black and white. But anyways, so where you go when you dream, where you go when you have out-of-body experiences, it's essentially Alam al-Mithal. And like I said, it's real information from the physical world, but what your mind does is, because it is a confluence of multiple dimensions of information, for the things that you can't normally see with the physical senses, your mind reads that information and then translates it into symbols and myths and stuff like that are the closest to what will help you understand that information. So it is it's real information, but how you remember it and how you interpret it is highly dependent on your current understanding of symbols. If you don't have the correct words or symbols in your memory to describe that thing, your brain is going to have to make something up. It's going to have to piece together the closest things that you have available to you in order to describe that thing. Now, this is also a part that's the same mechanism that does that is what causes you to see like certain shapes and colors and kaleidoscope looking stuff when you're having like an acid trip. So LSD. So for y'all who have never had any kind of drug related experience in your life, there are essentially two different ways that your brain can access memory for the sake of reconstructing memory. So for the vast majority of the stuff you remember, like if you saw something yesterday and you're remembering it and you can see it clearly in your mind now, that's the normal pathway that it takes to reconstruct memory. Well, what happens during the use of something like LSD is that instead of your brain using the pathway that it normally uses in order to draw memory from your stored memory, it uses calcium from within the neuron cells themselves. And so this means that it's getting pure raw information that has not been vetted or edited by your memory. You getting the straight and the raw. So this is why people, when they use LSD, they talk about it expands their mind, and they talk about, all this cosmic stuff. It's because they're getting access to other field information that is always present around you, but that gets filtered out by the brain so that you can have a stable experience of the physical realm. Well, when you're in alam mithal, in altered states or out of body states, it's really an inner body state because you got a microcosm of the universe in your body, but that's a conversation for another time. But you are interacting with real energies and fields and information that is all around you at all times. And so some of those energies are organized and consistent enough to where they occur to you as spirits or beings when you're on that side. So whenever they're talking about the spiritual realm, this is essentially what they're talking about. All right, so when they say you're a ruach, that the breath of God brought you to life as some dust, is saying that you are a spirit that moved from that realm into this one. So that should already be telling you that we don't fully understand the nature of what a human is, and then what happens to us after we shed the physical and all that. We talk about returning to the essence in the 5%, and we talk about how we are descendants of Allah himself. And it seems like that might be a conflict with what's being said in, in these other, other systems and stuff. But it's just that when you articulate it in a way that sounds disconnected, that's what people tend to think is going on. But if you actually understand what the human is and how we construct this body and how information converts into fields, and fields convert into movement, which becomes pressures that shape our perception such that we perceive boundaries and barriers with our senses, and the repulsion of those electromagnetic fields causes us to, it keeps our hand from sinking through the bed when I press through it and stuff. So there's way more to it than meets the eye. All right. So anywho, I'll talk about how the star Vega, which is my vulture woman, or vulture man, whatever. Boyd is a Boyd. Is Vega is particularly important among the Hindus, Babylonians, and Chinese are right here. They all had a common point in Babel. So all those who spread out all over the place, they say it was 70 if I recall, and then that's significant because I'll talk more about that once I get to the Meru Prastara. When I talk about that, I'll talk more about that 70 and the significance of that number. But yeah, all of those, that's what we were speaking. We knew this stuff. All right, so the other thing, so the reason for me going into depth about how the Al-Mithal works is that it became pretty apparent to me in, the first time I was trained, for out-of-body experience, for controlled out-of-body experience, stuff like that. It was apparent to me that the stuff I was seeing was real information. But at the same time, I also understood how much our minds have influence over there, where it's like the stuff that you're seeing over there, stuff we put there with our thoughts, and so apparently in Sufism, they talk about, I forget the Arabic name for it, but he talks a little bit about similar stuff in So in Yogananda's Autobiography of a Yogi, well, that's another book you should probably pick up. So Autobiography of a Yogi by Yogananda. You talking about somebody who was a big fan of Jesus? He'll say some stuff. He didn't say anything bad, but he gonna say some stuff that may be hard for you to hear if you one of those Christians who hasn't expanded your education on the origins of the things that you are being taught. But for this Indian guy to come over here during the time he did to the States and be basically saying a lot of the same stuff that Noble Drew Ali from the Moorish Science Temple of America was saying, that's deep. That's the same type of thing that had me pay attention to Sadhguru when I noticed that the dates he was saying for stuff, and another yogi, when I saw that the stuff that he was talking about that was preserved in the yogic traditions that may not necessarily have been clearly stated in the Hindu traditions, and that stuff was aligning with what they were saying in Nation of Islam and 5% Nation. Why is India saying the exact same thing? You forget India and Pakistan were once one land called Bharat. And if I recall correctly, I don't know, was Bharat the name? I must say that was the name of one of Rama's brothers. So they were toponyms. I mean, yeah, either toponyms or eponyms, one of the two. So these were names that were also lands. So Bharata, I want to say that was one of Rama's brothers. And see, Rama's sons were Lava and Kusha. So it's like, so again, we have Kusha, which is the esoteric name for Atlantis, but Kush is, of course, everything south of the equator. All right. Anyways, he talks about bilocating. So that's when a person can be in one place but then be seen in another place at the same time. It is not projection. It is a more or less solid body. And the way that this is achieved is that through intense focus and the right set of actions, things that are in the imaginal realm can become solid. And then so a number of people have suspected that this is because their realm is largely associated with the way plasma operates. Before my biological father died, he was a high-ranking Freemason as well as a high-ranking military officer. He's been going on secret missions since around the time I was born. And a few months before he died, he stopped and visited my mother and sat and was talking with her for a good long time. And so she tells me that one of the things that he talked about was some